right, we're live again. Second
Live
time.
again. One more round. Welcome back. Thanks for kicking it with us. The Black Phoenix Podcast. MC and TR. God, I can't talk tonight. What's good, TR?
Nothing much. We got a full boat today. A lot of crazy stuff that's been happening, and can't wait to get talking about it.
Indeed. Let's get right to it.
All right. So the first one we are going to discuss is going to be the NBA. So let's take a look at that and get that squared up or ready to go. Bear with me, folks. This stuff takes a little bit of time to getting used to going live. All right. Thought I had this ready to go. All right. There we go. All right. So got the video ready. Let's listen to it.
Realize the NBA draft lottery has always been rigged. And really, whenever a team loses a big star, they get rewarded with the number one overall pick. It goes back to 2011. The Pelicans trade Chris Paul to the Clippers, and then they get the number one pick in 2012 to select Anthony Davis. Then in 2019, the Pelicans trade AD to the Lakers, and then they get the number one pick to draft Zion Williamson in 2019. And then most recently, the Mavericks trade Luka Doncic to the Lakers, and they get the number one pick of the 2025 NBA draft, where they are going to select Cooper Flag. And as this person points out, don't forget when LeBron left Cleveland in 2010, the Cavs got the number one pick in 2011, and they ended up getting the number one pick 3 out of the 4 years after LeBron left. You can't even make this up.
Yeah, he was cooking on that one. The NBA draft, the NBA itself is just a very odd
The Los
situation.
Angeles Clippers have been one of the.
There we go. Turn that off. The NBA draft has just been extremely a very odd situation though, because he brought up some good points there, but also, I mean, going back to like the Patrick Ewing, and I feel like there was another draft that I'm blanking on, or another draft lottery situation, but LeBron James should be the most egregious one. And then also, this one that's happening with Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks. They were slated to be like, they had to jump like I want to say almost 10 spots to get to the number one spot. So that stuff just never happens. And the Dallas Mavericks, or some other stuff that was going on with them though. But I'm gonna let you get in there to get your point, MC.
What's even more egregious is the Cavs got those 3 number one picks when Brian left, and they did absolutely nothing with it. Got nothing out of it.
Well, they had Kyrie, and it kind of worked out when LeBron came back, though. But
when he came back, until he came back, they got nothing with those 3 number ones.
Mm-hmm.
Dallas had a 1.8% chance to get this first pick, and I kind of, and this is just theory. I'm normally would like to substantiate stuff, but we working with theories right now. Nobody has proof. We can just speculate. 1.8% chance. And I knew something was up when Mark Cuban did an interview, and he said on multiple platforms, trading Luka, it didn't make sense to him. He's still an owner. He's not the majority owner anymore, but he still has some ownership stake. So that's telling me that the people up top ain't even talking, and they're not agreeing, and they're not lining up. So right off the rip, man, I didn't trust this. I don't know how they got this number one pick with so minuscule percentages. And I hate the draft lottery system, period. I think they implemented it to prevent teams from tanking. But at this point, come on, man. Players want to win. Go ahead and just give the worst team the top pick. This is a trash system.
Yeah, I don't know what people are going to do about what's that guy's name? Nico, is it Nico Harris or Harrison? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know what they're going to do about Nico, because how does he know? I mean, most GMs are probably going to get fired in this situation. We trade away a franchise player. But Nico, what did he tell them? Like, hey, I know something. I got something in the woodworks. Like, you had this ready to go, or you got to be extremely lucky. And when you're a GM at that level, there's no luck involved with this. This is all organized. And Adam Silver, he's got of the teams that could have potentially, got the number one pick, because everybody's going after, is it Cooper Flag? Is the guy that's at Duke?
Yeah.
All right, so
Yep.
everybody wants Cooper, so he's supposed to be the big name, but you can't let Cooper go to DC, and you can't let Cooper go to Philadelphia, because those two teams are incompetent. And then Brooklyn, I mean, you definitely can't let him go there. Like, I mean, I just don't see those three teams like really getting a franchise player, or a player like Cooper Flag, though, because when it comes to like teams that he probably would fit in well with, it's either going to be Dallas, Denver, or maybe Utah, because those teams seem to be a little more open, having their franchises led by people that are absent of color. So that's what I think.
Denver's already got that slot filled though.
Yeah.
But what the NBA, in my opinion, what they prefer even more are their big market teams being competitive and still in the playoffs right now. I'm pretty sure they're happy that the Knicks are still fighting. They probably feel some type of way about the Lakers getting kicked out. But I think generally speaking, in my opinion, the NBA favors these large market teams. Now, that's going to be a problem for them this year, because theoretically you could have Indiana and Minnesota in the finals. And they probably don't want to. I mean, basketball purists like myself will be just fine with that. But these people that follow these players in these big markets probably ain't going to tune in. The NBA they probably wanted to counter that in some way.
Well, and this is something that was floating around. The idea is that the Dallas Mavericks ownership team wanted to move the team to Vegas. And so I'm pretty sure the Bay Area has a roadmap set up for Vegas, but they did not want Dallas interfering with that. So maybe this was hey, we're gonna, you guys can get rid of Luka, but we're gonna make sure you get the number one pick. So you do have to stay in Dallas, because that would, they could be, I don't want to say easily, but because the owners still have to vote on it though, but that would have really messed up the plans for the NBA though. So I don't know. I don't know how the NBA can really explain it, or Adam Silver can explain how some of these teams that lose their franchise players are somehow become lucky the following season. And Cleveland was pretty much the most egregious one, like 3 out of 4 years getting number one picks. Like, I always thought that was weird too. And that's when Dan Gilbert had his son before he passed away, at the draft lottery, which is kind of wholesome. I guess that's why some people never said anything, just because it was his son. But it was still kind of like weird when you look back on it though, and it's like, you guys are getting 3 picks, and that was a pretty big event when LeBron left. So
yeah, and first of all, taking the team out of Dallas is absolutely nuts. Dallas has a pretty, the Cowboys have been trash forever, and those fans still show up. So Dallas has a pretty good fan base, and it's in a state where you're not paying income taxes, and it's in a state that's increasing in population while other states are shrinking, or city, I should say. So it would be absolutely nuts to remove a team from Dallas to Vegas and then try to make that back later. He's better off just staying put in Dallas, and they just keep working on that strategy to get Seattle and Vegas back in the mix, and hopefully push Memphis to the Eastern Conference, because them playing in the West is absolutely ridiculous. But this is how the NBA is losing confidence. Like, our people are losing confidence in the NBA. Dwayne Wade has been openly criticizing this draft lottery system ever since this happened. And he's been one of the biggest ambassadors for the league during and after he played. But
Dwayne Wade,
this is not a good look.
Dwayne Wade, the architect of the Big Three?
The architect of the Big Three, yes. Pot me cattle. I got you. But regardless, he's calling out this draft lottery system. 2 separate issues, but I see why you would make the connection.
Yeah, Dwayne Wade. It's hard for me to take Dwayne Wade seriously. Let me pull up this article you just brought over. But anytime Dwayne Wade shows up to have like kind of a conversation, I'm like, man, where's the fingernail paint? Like, what is this about? But and there's other stars coming out about this as well too. So it's interesting to see that. I'm really surprised Dwayne Wade said something, honestly.
I try to keep it basketball when I talk about him, because when it comes to basketball, he can talk that talk and he backs it up. But that off the court stuff, yeah, man, I ain't rocking with that stuff at all.
Yeah, one that I forgot about was the Victor Wembanyama. Yeah, the Spurs definitely got gifted the Victor sweepstakes. But yeah, so the NBA is in survival mode. They're also competing against. I don't want to say they're competing, but right now, who's still in some of their shine is the WNBA, and specifically is really Caitlin Clark. So the NBA, I think the WNBA.
That's a bold statement, TR. I know you like Caitlin Clark, but that's a bold statement.
I think Caitlin Clark's a phenomenal player. I recognize the talent. All I'm saying is that when it comes to like eyeballs and excitement, Caitlin Clark seems to do a little bit more of that. And if the NBA gets the Indiana Pacers and the T-Wolves in the finals, I can tell you right now that is going to be a very low rating affair. And everybody's going to tune out and start watching some other material that's out there, which is going to be WNBA or really Indiana Fever games, because Caitlin Clark is still, bringing in eyeballs and bringing in revenue, basically carrying that league. So the NBA, I understand why they're trying to keep Dallas where they're at, and then also get a team to Vegas, and then the next step is to expand to Europe. But they got to keep everyone happy in the U.S. first.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate because if you've been watching these playoffs, these have been some of the best playoffs I've seen in a long time. Like there's been lots of upsets. For the most part, after the first round, the games have been really, really close. And I actually picked the Celtics to win the whole thing, and they're more than likely going to be eliminated. And this is great basketball to watch, man. It's competitive. You got a lot of young stars trying to make a name for themselves right now. And I think that's what's motivating them. But I would argue that this is one of the better seasons that I've seen in a long time. But I could just be saying that because I'm also a Pistons fan. They finally are back in the playoffs.
Yeah. So, all right, we are going to wrap that one up and go to the next topic, which is the Diddy, the Diddy files, or the Diddy recap, or whatever you want to call it, because right now it's not looking well for Diddy. So, what have you heard about the anything about? I mean, from your opinion, are you thinking Diddy is going to be found guilty, not guilty, has a chance, no chance? Like, what's your opinion on this, MC?
Well, if we go by the court of public opinion, he's already cooked. And it's crazy because people have been going in on him for years and warning people about some of these things that he was doing. But I guess now that we actually saw the footage on camera and starting to hear these testimonies, I guess that's the gut check that everybody needed. Like, oh, we got a problem here. But in my opinion, he's still connected to money, and apparently he has a list of 120 people of notable people, by the way, that were involved in some of these parties. I've heard a couple of Trumps that were attended this party. And I'm not just talking about hip hop people.
Wait, what did you say? You heard who was there?
So I heard a couple of, not Donald Trump, but his daughter. Her name came up.
Oh,
there's been news reporters who've been mentioned. But I think
LeBron went to those parties too, so make sure you make sure you keep.
Well, they got him on tape saying ain't no party like a Diddy party because the Diddy party don't stop.
Hey, for real.
But Cassie said that the little free calls that they used to have would last anywhere from 48 to 72 hours, and on occasion it could stretch up to 5 days. 5 days of
so I got
baby oil.
I got a video that's going to kind of dive into this. But one of the things that's pretty quiet about this case, so I don't think a lot of people understand how this case even came to be, other than Cassie bringing suit. Which was kind of weird though, because Cassie was trying to get money and she didn't get any money, so she went to she filed a lawsuit, and that's when Diddy, and once we got the story details, that's when Diddy came up with the money to give to Cassie, thinking that Cassie was going to go away. But now, lo and behold, she's the star witness. But anyways, so this case came about, though, because in New York, they created that New York Survivors Act in New York to go after Donald Trump, which is crazy, though, because Diddy was against Trump, and then they used the same, or I believe he wasn't a fan of Trump, whatever the case is. But they use that same law, that same, you know, the Survivors Act to go after Diddy. And so, and there's been some other people that are going after him, but Cassie is the more well-known one. So anyway, so that's how we got there. And so, you know, there's been like a lot of conversations about how this trial is going to go. Is it going to be a fair trial? I don't think Diddy's going to get a fair trial, and it's mainly because of the jury selection. I heard that that they removed the majority of black jurors off of the trial, and you know, in most cases, I'm all about being fair. Like, you know, everybody's should understand, like, when it comes to the jury, you want the people to be there to be fair and balanced. But what I'm finding out about the law is that it's anything but that, because the people that they kept on there, they said half of the jury pool is over the age of 50. So some of these folks are not going to be understanding, like, wait, why would he want some guy to do XYZ? Why is he doing all this crazy stuff with this woman? This woman is pregnant. Cassie is currently pregnant. And there's just a lot of things that a lot of gamesmanship that you have to do as an attorney, because you're trying to figure out the best jury pool, the best jury options for yourself. And so I don't think that looks good for Diddy, though, because these are, and half of them are white, or actually I think they're half white and then also half women. So that, I just don't think those are good options for him, though, and mainly because, you know, I think women are a little more, or tend to be more sympathetic to a woman that's appears to be in a victim. So there's some debate there. But also when it comes to, like, you know, figuring out, like, is this the jury of your peers? And, you know, one would say, like, that's the jury of your peers, though. But I know you should always want to strive for like a mixed jury pool and not just all white jury pool. That's what happened to Jonathan Majors. And I'm not saying that they got the Jonathan Majors. Well, I will say they got the Jonathan Majors situation wrong, but there was only one black person on the Jonathan Majors jury trial. And so in this situation, I don't know if there are any black people on there. I just know that the way that they describe them, it appears that they're majority white people on this jury, on the jury selection. And so that may be, you know, that tends to be a negative thing. That's per from like attorneys when they're trying to figure out who they want to have on the jury. They typically go for people that look like them in order to get a favorable outcome. Doesn't always happen, but that's just what they do. Go ahead, MC.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me pause here, so we know that the prosecuting attorneys and the defense attorneys pick half and half of the jury. So half of that jury that was picked came from his defense team. So I don't know what the strategy was. Let's say that we know for a fact that everybody on the jury is white and older than 50. I can understand that from a defense standpoint, because you probably want somebody who more than likely doesn't know who you are and is probably not familiar with all the beefs that you were involved in and all the other allegeds in the hip hop space. So in that regard, it makes sense. From the prosecuting perspective, I would think you'd want to do the opposite of that. You want like millennials, people of color, particularly women, who are typically going to attach themselves to Cassie's tears and testimony and kind of lean in her direction. So I don't know what the prosecution side was thinking, but from a defense side, I understand.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. One of the questions that was asked, and I'm gonna throw this out to you, TR, see what you think about it. What was going viral today in these social media streets was Cassie a victim, or was she involved in all of this? Because she's not completely innocent. But what do you think? Where do you stand on this? Because a lot of people are struggling to answer that question. Is she a victim or is she a participant?
I think both things are true, though, because Cassie was setting up some of these sessions. Cassie was, she said there was an abuse claim that happened, but then she's going back to him the next day and multiple days, and she spent almost 10 years with Diddy. So it's hard for me to understand, to believe that she is a complete, or she's innocent in all of this, what I think happened is I think the state's using Cassie just to make an example out of Diddy because this is one of those cases that will set your career. Like you put Diddy behind bars, you got a conviction on Diddy. This sets your career. This has nothing. This really has nothing to do with like Cassie or that CNN video that dropped showing how he abused her down the hallway. There's a lot of things that are going on, but justice is not going on. I think this is more to do with just these the prosecutors, and also the prosecutors. They're all women. They're all white women at that. And so I bring that up though because it's like you guys are prosecuting Diddy and you didn't have any diversity in here because there might be some blind spots that I feel like there's probably more, there's going to be more black people that are aware of some of the shenanigans with Diddy that has occurred versus some of the other one. And they're all prosecutors, so maybe they've done all their homework. But what I've seen happen is that in New York, they tend to be more about doing whatever it takes to get the conviction versus doing what's in the best interest of justice. And so one example is the Jonathan Majors. The other example are how they went after Trump. There were like, was it two prosecutors? Yeah, it was Alvin Bragg and Letitia James bending the law to go after Donald Trump. So that just tells me that any prosecutor that's in New York is just doing things just to put another feather, to put a feather in the hat to get the accolades. Because I one it's crazy. One of the prosecutors is the daughter of James Comey, who was the former FBI director that was fired by Trump. So this stuff comes full circle around though, man. But I just think that Cassie is definitely she was also participating, but she's also a victim. But the way that the defense, or not the defense, but what the prosecutors are trying to do is they're trying to just paint her as this saint victim, and use that to railroad Diddy. But like I said, unless they botch it, I think Diddy's cooked, honestly.
Yeah, he's going down, a la Jeffrey Epstein. But this lawsuit is way bigger than people realize. If you all the celebrities that have been mentioned so far in testimony, Page Six kind of wrote them out. I actually just posted the article. This ain't just black celebrities, by the way, and this ain't just like lower level celebrities. These are like real big names, real impactful names. But I'm going to go back. The first question I asked you, I said, is Cassie a victim or is she a participant? The reason why it's hard to answer questions like that is because women do a really good job of resetting what the standard is depending on what the topic is, right?
That's
And
true.
here's what I mean by that. So there's different accounts of how old Cassie was when she first met Diddy and started messing with Diddy. We know that people like Jaguar Wright and others have gone on the record and said that Cassie was allegedly an active participant in his abuse of his first wife, Kim
Yeah.
Porter. This is alleged, so don't come for me. Come for other people that talked about this. To the point where she would allegedly see Diddy abusing her and would sit and laugh about it, or sometimes participate. So my question is, at what age do you know morality, right? Because she waited forever to file this suit. And that always baffles me. I'm sorry, women, but it baffles me. I don't get why you would wait instead of just making it a problem right away. She
Whatever
waited
excuse.
forever to file the suit. She bought some of these other women around, so she was serving as a madam slash mistress and providing assists like Jason Kidd or John Stockton.
Hmm.
And now that she's shedding tears and appearing distressed, here we are tapping into our feminine power again, because if a woman starts crying or she shows signs of distress, she's going to inspire sympathy and empathy from the public. And that's what's happening now. I do tend to agree with you, though. Two things can be true. She can be a victim and a participant, though I'm still kind of wondering about that. I'm still wondering about both and how they apply to her. Also, I'm glad you brought up politics because I was going to say I believe that this is going to become political at some point because the Dems took a huge hit when people, at least in the black podcasting circles were calling the Dems the party of Diddy. A lot of those people were at these Diddy parties. Politicians were mentioned, by the way. So I think at some point this is going to become political because the Dems need to distance themselves from this. If that is the case, and quite frankly, they need some type of victory because they've been hurting ever since Trump smacked them around last November.
Facts. All right, let me get this video queued up and we can start, taking some or critiquing it.
The prosecution's star.
Oops. Hold on here. Unmute.
Witness taking the stand, but it was more than that. It was how Cassie took that stand. You could hear a pin drop when those doors opened, and a visibly pregnant Cassie Ventura walking past.
Also, real quick, whenever people talk about Cassie, these news media outlets and even some of the creators on social media, they consistently paint her as a victim. You actually have to go in the comments where people ask the question about how's she a victim when she was, bringing in some of these escorts or asking these escorts to do certain things to her per the escort's testimony. So it's interesting that they're taking this position on this, but I mean, I'm not surprised at CNN.
Past a man she had seen in 6.5 years, a man she says violently abused her for a decade, a man the prosecution said trafficked her. Well, she sat across from him, placed her overcoat behind her, turning her body slightly toward the jury, rubbing her pregnant belly throughout her testimony. Diddy, well, he was more fidgety than he was the day before. He was passing notes. He pushed himself away from the defense table and largely sat like that. They never seemed to make eye contact with one another, not even after she was crying about having loved him once and planning and participating in these freak-off sex parties because she feared him and she wanted to make him happy, but feeling worthless, feeling disgusting because she didn't want to do it. Now, with each moment, the testimony became more and more graphic. Her delivery, though.
See, I have such a trouble with this because they're creating a narrative that really isn't there. One more thing I wanted to bring up, though, when it comes to like these trafficking charges, if Diddy gets put on trafficking in RICO, it's a wrap for a lot of men. Those flyouts, those ain't gonna happen anymore. Fly you in,
you're right.
None of that stuff.
You can fly somebody out and be grouped into trafficking. You're absolutely right. That's crazy.
Yep, and on the RICO charge, it's pretty easy to throw RICO charges on people. Apparently, when it comes to like what happened in Atlanta Fulton County with Fannie Willis with the RICO charges on the Trump organization, they just make up the charges. They just throw the RICO charges. Honestly, what men should be here. Let me put this back on the screen. What men need to be looking at is how they're being portrayed in the media. And I'm not saying Diddy is just like everybody else, though, but it's how they're using the law to go after Diddy, because whatever they do for the law, what do you think they're going to do to you? Like, you're not going to be able to have your say in court. You probably won't have the money. You're going to be able to get one lawyer and maybe the jailhouse lawyer or something, but you're not going to be able to even have remotely close to a case like what Diddy's going through or defense that Diddy's going through. Most men, honestly, would have taken the plea deal. Even if they didn't do it, they probably would have taken the plea deal, because I don't know how they get out of this situation. I don't know how they try to show their innocence, because everyone thinks Diddy did all this stuff and no one's really going after Cassie. No one, I mean, we're bringing it up and there's a few people in the comments, but I don't see a lot of creators, outside of like CGA has brought it up. Anton Daniels has brought it up. I'm pretty sure Angry Man has brought it up as well too. But when it comes to like, how they're paying Cassie, and CNN's doing it, they're making it seem like they're setting the story, they're setting the tone that she's just a victim. And, they're going very into detail on how she looks. This is crazy.
She really doesn't have to do much here, because Diddy kind of stuck his foot in his mouth when he did that apology video. He didn't specifically admit the things he did to Cassie. He said that I did some horrible things and I've been getting some help. and I just want to apologize to everybody that I've affected.
Yeah,
But
I forgot. You did
again, yeah, he snitched on himself. I'm surprised he didn't try to jump on a plane and fly to another country like another famous black celebrity that recently got caught up in the scandal. But
that.
we'll leave that
Yeah.
alone for now. Yeah, yeah, allegedly. But anyway, man, he is cooked. He's definitely cooked. The only thing his defense can do is try to get a reduced or lesser sentence.
No, that's
But
out the door now.
He's going to take some type of punishment.
Yeah,
I do think that one thing that could backfire on Cassie is the fact that she accepted a $20 million settlement in 2023, though. I think they could probably use that as some type of evidence to argue for a reduced challenge, because you could argue that they sat down and they talked it out. She took the settlement and she acknowledged that it was squashed, but then it came back up again.
Yeah.
So he could kind of use that to discount her testimony a little bit. It won't excuse him from the criminal charges themselves, but I'm wondering what the counter strategy is here, because I've always fascinated by how attorneys typically would defend anyone, particularly in a situation like this where everything is just against Diddy right now. I don't know what the defense is going to be. I'm curious to see how that goes.
Yeah.
Never changed. It was a matter of fact, steady, calm. At times, she was even critical of herself, walking us all through how at 10 a.m. she testified, quote, every freak off was like directed by Sean, like he knew specifically where he wanted everyone to be, the lighting and such. Cassie says the freak offs made her feel disgusting, humiliated. She says she took all kinds of drugs to numb herself and disassociate. And she testified Diddy frequently got physically abusive. One of those times was during a 2016 incident at a California hotel.
I know we can show that.
They asked if there were occasions when she tried to fight back when he would hit her. She said, no. Cassie's testimony, it's far from over. She'll be back on that stand tomorrow. And her lawyer, though, says she's feeling good after today.
How do you feel after today?
It's not for me to decide how we feel. It's up to the jury. But we're very confident.
Cassie got her own lawyer? Did you know that? Why would she need her own lawyer?
I would hope so.
Wait, why would she need her own lawyer? Am I missing something here?
I mean, you're entitled to defend. She wasn't going to defend herself.
She's not on trial.
Yeah, she's not on trial, but I think there's probably some personal vested interest in it for her to see him pay for his crimes.
Yeah,
that's the only conclusion I can draw.
Okay, that's very weird. I didn't connect the dots that she had her own lawyer there. Like, why would she need her own lawyer? She's not on. They're not going to go after Cassie. If Cassie could implicate herself, she can. I mean, well, she is, but she can say all these things that happen. The state is not going to go after Cassie. They're going to make an example out of Diddy, and Diddy's the guy. They're not going to go after a pregnant woman. They're not going to go after a pregnant black woman. Like, there's a lot of woke infinity stones that they're not going to be able to touch. So even if she does implicate herself and says she did all these things, she might as well, have, the immunity deal? Like, she might as well just have that, though. And which is weird, though, because I don't know why she's even talking, because I could have sworn she signed an NDA on that settlement, but apparently that's thrown out the window, which, something for the legal bros to figure it out, I guess.
I think we've learned by now that, Stormy Daniels had an NDA too, and she told it all. So I don't really know how legally binding these NDAs are. I really don't.
Yeah, and she actually, Trump successfully won the NDA disclosure, or breaking the NDA. So I forgot how much money it was. I think it was like 6 figures. But I mean, nobody talks about Stormy Daniels no more. All those Democrats that wanted to use Stormy Daniels and Alvin Bragg use Stormy Daniels to go after him. They don't even talk about her anymore. She's just a footnote in history now. Oops, let me go back.
And here's the thing: they could probably go very deep in the chamber to get people to testify against Diddy. Just in these couple minutes we've been talking, I've been doing some searches on, I've been looking for positive and negative stories with this dude. I can't find anything positive. What I did find was he got into a fight with Drake. He got into a fight with J. Cole. He tried to fight the weight training coach at UCLA in California. Like, I can't find anything positive about this dude. And then Gene Deal, his former bodyguard, him and Biggie's former bodyguard, has also gone on the record of saying, I've seen this dude slap his own mom in front of everybody.
Yeah.
For trying to say something about the way he does business. So yeah, Diddy. This might be a little bit of karma, man. You can't find not one person to say anything positive about you. One.
Hey, that Dave Chappelle skit looks a little bit different now.
Yeah, look way different.
How's she doing after it all? How is she feeling? I know it must have been a lot to kind of recount all the experiences.
It was a long day. I'm just super proud of her.
Let's start off with CNN's Kara Scannell, who has been covering this case from the very beginning, and she was in the courtroom today, virtually a front row seat. Kara, tell me, how did the testimony come in? How were these freak-offs orchestrated?
So Cassie kind of walked the jury, helping them travel to certain locations from Miami to Ibiza to New York to LA. Responsible for was finding these escorts, using Craigslist, some of these other escort services, helping them travel to certain locations from Miami to Ibiza to New York to LA to Las Vegas, and that she worked with Combs's business travel people in order to move people around, saying that they would project that they were potential employers.
She's admitting to trafficking. That is unless trafficking is something different, unless it's understood differently, that's trafficking. The way they've been applying the law. This is
crazy.
crazy.
You just answered your own question too, TR. Maybe we know now why she has a lawyer. She wants some immunity for this stuff.
Well, I feel like they would have given her an immunity deal beforehand, though. But
I'm sure she agreed to some type of deal before she took the stand. Because I'm sure they were begging her to take the stand. She about to walk away scot-free.
But she said that he had everything to do with what she was wearing. She said she would buy outfits from sex shops and see which one he wanted her to wear. And then inside the actual hotel rooms, their apartments where the freak-offs took place, she said that Combs was in charge of lighting. It began
lighting.
The range of these fears were from physical to just if she upset him, he would take away her phone, her car, limit her access to her apartment. Sometimes that was done by him, sometimes through members of his staff, some of his security team. She also was testifying that, these physical threats. One thing that stood out to me that she said was if she made the wrong face, the next thing I knew I was getting hit in the face. And she said he controlled almost every aspect of her life. He gave her essentially busy work, a to-do list, so he would know what she was doing at all times. If he couldn't reach her, he was incessantly texting her until someone went and checked to see where she was. She also said that he controlled her appearance. Sometimes he didn't like her hair. He wanted her to dress sexy, sometimes a tomboy. He wanted her nails to be white, she testified, especially during the freak-offs. And one thing that she said she was concerned about was blackmail, because a lot of these freak-offs were recorded, and the big concern was hers that they could end up in the internet if somehow she did something to upset him.
We're just
so that's enough of that video. All they're gonna do is just
I have a question, TR. Where's the masculinity in this? Because another thing, and that word I hate, toxic masculinity, has been floating through the socials all day today. So for all you people that like to use that stupid concept, tell me how is any of this masculine? You tell me what type of dude that's living in his purpose and taking care of business has enough time to sit and micromanage somebody like this and abuse the power that they have.
I will say there's definitely a lot of work. I feel like he could have been best served doing other stuff though. But I mean, Diddy wasn't he a billionaire, I believe, or close to it?
Oh yeah, he's a billionaire for sure.
So yeah, he's definitely had the ability to, do other things, but micromanage a person down to like clothing and everything, that's just crazy to me. Maybe she's exaggerating. Maybe she's exaggerating some of these things. I don't know. We haven't heard from Diddy's defense, or there's still the prosecutors going through this. So there'll probably be some more additional conversations there. But I'm really waiting to hear from the defense and see how she's going to get herself out of that. Which is, to your point, is why she has a lawyer to step in or tell her when hey, don't say anything, or keep this to yourself, or whatever the case is. So that kind of makes sense though. But I mean, again, when it comes to incriminating herself, the state's not going to go after her. She may look bad in the public sphere, but I don't know, it could be worse than Diddy, but It's just a very odd situation on this one, though. But yeah, there's a lot of things going on with this, though. So we're going to try to stay up to date on this before we move to the next topic, which is still Diddy related. Anything else on this one, MC?
No, I'm just looking forward to hearing his defense because he had a lot that he had to talk his way out of. It's going to be interesting to hear how that goes.
Yeah. So, all right. So on this topic, we are going to talk about Cassie's husband. Is he the biggest Captain Seva 304 ever, though? Because let me find the video about you know, the husband, or about some of the things alleged to have happened with Diddy, because I don't know how you can even listen to this stuff, though. I don't know why he would want to be there on the court case, though. So we have this where this is from the Shade Room, and Cassie reveals how she recovered from freak offs, antibacterial, didn't work anymore. Diddy or Cassie opened up about how she recovered from frequent freak offs, which previously revealed could have lasted for days. She testified that she often suffered from UTIs, mouth sores, and needed opioids and IVs to fluids to recover. This is insane. Like, and I looked at the comments. So before we tackle this, I looked at the comments and all this. And again, people were just going off of the emotional reaction. And I get Diddy is, I'm not saying Diddy is innocent by any means. Definitely got some scumbag and did some terrible things to people around him. But I don't know if I want to still come out and say, like, you know, all the stuff we can hear about Cassie. Again, you got to wait till all the information comes out before people start putting on their capes for Cassie, though. So it's very interesting to see these people just have this very, you know, this conversation that's just really defending Cassie, but she's no saint. And but you know who probably thought he was the saint was her husband. He probably thought he was getting and her husband's, I think he's white, but he probably thought he was getting a nice piece of chocolate. And Cassie was like, hey,
Yeah.
there's just so much to go here. So let me hand the mic off to you, MC.
And frankly, TR, you gave the PG-13 version of some of the things that were said. There was some
urinated.
Yeah, I mean, there was that, and she talked about UTIs and things like that. Look, her husband is better than me because I've always said that when it comes to these Hollywood adjacent chicks, these singers, these people that want to be famous and always hanging around, I just assume that they've all been ran through. Now, whether with consent or not is a different conversation, but
Sure.
this is what you're signing up for when you are going after these types of women, and you need to be comfortable with that. And if you are comfortable with that, you might have some beta tendencies. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I don't see it, but good for him. I mean,
Hey.
you don't want to hear. Why would you want to be with somebody you can't even stomach to hear their past? But that's a part of who they are. That's what made them who they are. But you don't even want to hear about it? Yikes.
I'm gonna tell you right now. This is the thing that people don't want to have the uncomfortable conversation on, though. So Cassie, look, that is supposed to be your queen. That is supposed to be your wife. That is the mother of your 3 kids. Here's the thing. I forgot the dude that she married was actually hired by Diddy. So instead of just doing your job, instead of just being a professional, you start fucking to help. You start fucking your client. This is, I know that's kind of cliche to hear that about, oh yeah, the whatchamacallit guard. Your trainer is piping you down. But here's the thing. So either he knew about some of the things that Diddy did, and he was like, yeah, I'm still interested. I still want to go at it. Or she lied about it. I don't know which one makes him look. I don't know which one makes who look better in this situation, though, because even if she told a little bit about it, you still want to get involved with her? Like, why would you do that? And then, not to mention this, and real quick on this one, you have to hear everything, every defiling act that occurred. You had to hear the body or the escort say, "Hey, she asked me to R. Kelly in her mouth. She asked me to do those disgusting things to her. So as much as you want to paint Diddy as the bad guy, your wife, your queen, the mother of your kids asked to do all those, was involved with some of those things, and you got a front row seat to hear it. So regardless how this plays out, you're still going to be looking like the fool. You're still going to be the guy that, hey, I got the woman that I wanted. Well, everybody, it sounds like a lot of people got the woman that you wanted.
Another thing that wasn't mentioned was Cassie was the one who hired the male escorts too. It wasn't just women. So I think you're absolutely right with your assessment. Either he knew about it or she lied about it. And I suspect that he knew, because one of the times where she claimed that Diddy assaulted her, she was married to him. So she was with the dude when it happened.
Oh yeah, yeah. I just heard about that recently, actually. Yeah. So what we're talking about there is allegedly he raped her, and while she was with her husband.
Right.
Or well, they were married. I think they were married, or they were dating or something going on. So when did you tell your husband what happened? Because I got more questions, because if you didn't go to the police when it happened, but you went to the she still never went to the police, actually. So as her husband or the guy that's dating her, you still saw it through. You said, hey, this is still what I want to do. Like, that just doesn't make sense to me. So he's got to be the biggest simp, and he's got to be like someone that no man should aspire to be. This is not the ideal situation. You're not winning in this situation, though, because either she lied to you or you just ignored all the red flags. Because I can tell you, if one of my friends said, hey, this is who I'm thinking about, I'd be like, and this is what she's been through, I'd be like, no, don't do it. That's just bad news. That's just extra baggage. And look, it's coming to fruition now, though, because even though they stopped, I forget when they stopped dating, because she's all married and everything. But whenever that was, probably at least 5 years, you still have to deal with the baggage from her ex. You still dealing with her ex. It's almost like y'all married together. And then now the world knows that Cassie was involved with all this stuff, though. Has she just taken the money? People would have forgot about this. People would have been like, hey, something weird happened, but he would have been in a limelight. I didn't know what that guy looked like until, they started doing the recaps.
So I guess you kind of partially answered the question I was about to ask, TR, but as a man, if you're dealing with the woman and she discloses to you that she has a past like this, the question is, let's say everything's cool now, but she discloses this to you. Are you going to stick around? And if you don't stick around, are you a jerk for not sticking around?
No man is a jerk for having to stick around with any of this nonsense. Whether it's a step situation, whether it's a college sweetheart, whatever the case is, your wife is checking out, wilding out. Look, the one thing that came out in this trial, is that she said she was still in love with Diddy. Man, that would just crush me. That would just crush me. Hear your wife talking about how she went through all of the craziness with Diddy. I can't even have a long line like that. I messed up with some chick. She's like, hey, we're done. You don't pay attention to me, I walk it out. Apparently with Diddy, though, you got to tell me we know Diddy wasn't clapping her cheeks, at least not regularly. So it wasn't the sex. So what was it? Oh, it probably was those, multiple properties and the allowance that she was getting every month. So yeah, you got to know, men in general have to know, like, this is a very bad deal. And if they decide that they still want to see it through, then you're going to get these jokes. You're going to get these jokes 1000%. And then they need to start putting his face out there too. He needs to start having a front row seat, like not just in the courts, but on the social media, though, because this is not who you want to look. Cassie's situation is just messed up. And that's probably one of the rarest things that'll probably come up with most women. But when it comes to, like, dealing with the stuff, like, if you know beforehand, you just can't mess with it. You just got to be like, hey, you know what? If in a different timeline, we're probably going to be together, but not this one. It's
Yeah.
just crazy, too crazy for me, for most men. But apparently men are down bad. Men will sign up for stuff like this.
Yep, absolutely they will. And not only will you get the jokes, you kind of got to deal with the traumas that come from stuff like
Oh,
this. There's probably some unresolved conflicts that haven't been dealt with yet.
yeah.
Going back to something you said earlier, because I was looking at the timelines of all the testimonies and stuff. So when the graping happened, she said she was with who is now her husband, but she also said when the grape happened, it was because she went and met with Diddy because they were having a closure conversation and were breaking up.
Closure
So
conversation.
it sounds like she was juggling both of these dudes at the same time. Because if
Oh,
you're
yeah.
breaking up, that means that at least in his head they're still together. Not to mention she was still working for him, and I believe he was too. So they both kind of stuck around, knowing that he was this type of way, and was doing all of these things. And I mean, am I wrong for saying I can challenge their judgment based on that assessment? Like some people will say I am wrong for calling that out.
No, you're not. You're not even close to being wrong. This guy, look. The one thing that's really not being highlighted here is how much of a scumbag he was for. I don't understand why he's not getting dragged for sleeping with his client, though, because how many times have we heard, like, if you're a lawyer, you're gonna get disbarred. If you are a doctor sleeping with your client, I mean, I don't know if you'll get, lose your license, but it's definitely frowned upon. So this is what this motherfucker looks like. He wanted to be front row. He wanted to get get his black queen. All right, here you go. Now we about to get these jokes on you because you wanted to act like you were doing the right thing, but all you were doing was sleeping with your client and came back and bit you in the ass. This is the guy that thinks he got it for free, and then we find out, like, I mean, he's probably, if he knew some of it, he's probably okay knowing, if he was probably okay with it being in secrecy or just being private. Now we all know. So you can't tell me if he was okay with it being secret, is he okay with it now? Because maybe he's finding out some of this stuff, though. But how can you be okay with that? How can you look at that woman and knowing that she was a human toilet? How? I don't get it.
You know, and I think this is the grand hustle too, because when we try to ask questions about, well, not we, because I'm out the game, single men who try to ask questions about body counts, right? They'll try to shame them for asking those questions. But this, and now we're just talking about from the husband's perspective, this becomes even more important now. Because now that you start diving into her past and seeing all these interactions, she got all these soul ties with all these other men and possibly some other women too. And that's a lot for most average people to handle. I mean, somehow he deals with it. I guess he just pretends like it never happened. That's at least that's what I think, because when he heard her testify about her past, he couldn't take it and got up and walked out. So that tells me they've never had an extensive conversation about what she did.
Yeah, and that's a lot to, process the same day while you're, in the center of media attention. And everybody's trying to, like, be nice to him like he's a sympathetic hero. He's not a hero. Again, he slept with his client. He was hired to work he was hired to be her fitness trainer. And so sleeping with your client, yeah, you got a wife out of it. The problem is your wife has been around with everybody else. So for a lot of people, well, really for men, they're going to have to start asking these questions, and they're going to have to, like, really look at push the conversation, though, because maybe, let's say Cassie lied about this and you find out that her body count is, way higher or whatever it is. You got to be able to walk away. You got to be ready to walk away. And if there's a kid involved, you got some hard decisions to make, though, because it's one thing if it's between you two, but now the world knows about it. How can you still, like, think this is a good thing? This is going to be out there on the internet. And I'm surprised that she agreed to be a witness for the prosecuting team, though, because you've already got the money. She already won. I just don't know why she did this. She got the generational change money, and she got to, keep her husband out of it, and got to keep her kids out of it. And now that she wants to, really put Diddy behind bars, I just think it's overkill. I think it's she could have avoided some of this stuff, though. She could have been like, look, I'm glad to, I don't want to be involved anymore. This is too much pressure, which I understand why some people don't want to go through this stuff like this, because you got to relive it. But apparently, that's not the case here.
Yeah, and I am 100% convinced that she was comfortable taking that settlement and just fading away. I think when everybody came for Diddy and they presented the like, hey, we're coming after you with criminal charges. That wasn't her doing. I think she was prepared to take that settlement and go sit down somewhere and disappear. But they must have given her some type of offer or coaxed her some way to step back into the light and completely air out her sexual history with this dude.
Well,
Because she's embarrassing herself and her husband too. So
the family.
it's not just about the family too. I mean, her kids are young, but they're going to hear about this at some point. Somebody's going to use it against her. Don't let them go into sports. Because if you play it, I hate to say this, but some athletes will do whatever it takes to get inside your head and throw you off your game in a competitive atmosphere. So in a heated moment, somebody might say something crazy about your mom, and you know how that goes in the Black community where somebody talk crazy about your mama. So yeah, man, this is crazy.
I'm going to tell you right now, when it comes to how they're handling this, how they're they thought, I can't believe they thought this was the best option though, because now that you brought that up, it's something I just thought of. Cassie shouldn't be your strongest witness. Cassie should be like, if she's your biggest chip out the gate, then that tells me you may not have a strong case, because this has nothing to do with the trafficking. Well, indirectly, they're trying to connect the trafficking to Diddy. That was at his request, and she was just she was a victim in all this, which I don't know how they're going to do that. It seems like it's more work to do it that way. But no matter the case, and maybe they put leverage on her. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe they said either he goes down for the charges or you go down for the charges. Like, this is our justice system at work. The justice isn't about getting justice. It's about making a name for yourself. That's why we have these prosecutors. Like, it's going to be hard for me to vote for anybody that's a prosecutor that's running for a political office, though, because when it comes to like, how did you make your convictions? A lot of times they just go after certain types of people, and that's how they get their conviction rates up. Talking about being tough on crime when they're really not tough on crime. They just went to the easiest path, though. So if they are trying to get like some RICO charges and whatever we call it, and trafficking charges, maybe they leverage her to do that, though, because that actually makes more sense why she has a lawyer present and also talking for her, though, because she's going to end up like they probably told her, like, if you don't go on the stand, we're going to go after you. Even with they must have found a way to get around the NDA too.
Yeah. The trafficking thing, and by definition, trafficking is just the illegal movement or exploitation of people or goods, right? I'm pretty sure, and this is just me being devil's advocate. I'm not saying, I'm not condoning, I'm not taking sides, none of that. But Diddy could theoretically come back and pull evidence, maybe text messages or emails, some type of group chats, that all of these people were operating with consent.
Yeah.
There's still that chance. I mean, it's basically I call it the Shay Shay strategy at this point, because that was the first thing he did, was he pulled the text. And I'm just wondering, like, that's probably Diddy's best shot at a defense here. But outside of that, like I said earlier, he snitched on himself. He's cooked. The question is, how cooked is he going to be? Is he going to be overdone, or is this a little bit burnt? Either way, he's going to be cooked. Yeah. And he got a guest list. So I don't know, man. He might have an accident too. Like, Epstein allegedly. Yeah. I don't know. This is going to be crazy to see.
So, yeah, I think that's as much as we're gonna, discuss on this one. But I'm definitely going to be, curious to see how things play out, and then also hear how the defense goes after her, because I want to hear their case. So, stay tuned to that, folks.
Yeah, indeed.
All right, we are going to go to this is going to be a fun one. Black fatigue. This is another word that's actually gone mainstream, and I'm actually for how it's being described. Well, I'm actually for the word, though, because it kind of for most people, they have a good idea what black fatigue is, but a lot of people are just getting a lot of backlash for. I mean, I should say white people are getting backlash for it, though. But it's pretty accurate, though, for some of the things that's been happening. It's a good a definition of what's happening in the Black community is Black fatigue, though, because you can't, in my opinion, so I'll give my definition, you can give your definition, MC. So when it comes to Black fatigue, what I think people are talking about is, definitely the ugly parts when it comes to the Black community, which is the Waffle House incidents, the airport customer service incidents, that damn statue that they put in Times Square. Like, these are things that it's just completely unnecessary, because we know other cultures do stuff like this. What goes viral and for the ratchetness is, people from our community, or people that are Black. So that's where I think it, when it comes to the whole Black fatigue. But also what I think people are also missing is the victimhood mindset. The Jasmine Crockett's, the BLM folks, the son husbands, the men that told other Black men to vote for Kamala because she's Black. That is the Black fatigue that I'm referring to, though, because I'm getting tired of people, trying to tell me like, this is what you should do. Otherwise, it's XYZ, or you're this animal. And it really isn't the case, though. So that's my definition of Black fatigue. How about yours?
It's not that far off from yours. I just posted an article that kind of, if you scroll to the bullet points at the top of the article, it kind of about the things that can make someone fatigued. And for the record,
it's you got to buy it.
Yeah. You should be able to. I just pulled it up for free. Let me just read some of the points that.
You're right.
Yeah. So, for the record, I get fatigued with everybody at some point, but I'm harder on us because this is who I am, right? And I've seen this more than everything else. Our problem is the people who have the loudest voices in our community are the ones who typically need to shut the hell up.
That's
seriously. And that's including politics. Like, some of these people just need to shut up. Felicia Rashad, who a lot of people would identify as Black America's mother. She went on Breakfast Club not too long ago and said that these women are leaving nothing to the imagination. They're way too revealing and too provocative with their clothing. And then you got people like Keke Palmer that try to comfort her and call her sedity or stuck up, right?
Yeah.
There's that. Remember, they didn't start going after Bill Cosby, and by them I'm talking about us, until he told Black men to pull their pants up and start wearing belts and start conducting yourself like gentlemen, right? And when you look at how our society has evolved, last week I said, go Google image of Black woman from 1950 and then do the same thing for a Black woman today and tell me what differences you see. You can do the same thing with men. The way we used to dress, the way we used to conduct ourselves, it's completely and totally changed. And you could argue that a lot of this are chickens coming home to roost, right? Because in the early 90s, where people like Uncle Luke and Too Short were starting to take off, that was the men wilding out. Well, now the women are essentially doing the same thing. And you could argue it's chickens coming home to roost, but at some point, somebody, when you try to correct it, those are the people that get shamed now. Where people should be able to express themselves and do what they want to do. No, they shouldn't. There needs to be a code of conduct in place, and there needs to be limitations and accountabilities in place as well. And that's the part that's missing, and that's why everybody gets fatigued. But the reason why this Black fatigue thing started trending was because this was actually some white folks who were saying they were tired of it, but they were trying to tie it to woke ideologies. And by that, have you ever talked to somebody and they say, well, as a person of color, and then they make the point that they're trying to make? That's the type of stuff that makes people tired, because when you pull that type of card and you start a sentence off like that, you're trying to flex on them and say, hey, I'm a person of color, so I have more value on this topic than you do. And that's the type of things that people get tired of.
Yeah. And I want to say, somebody just messaged something in a comment, which I don't know if I can even show it. Yeah. People who aren't Black pretending they're Black because of the privilege it brings, which, that's a good point. And he followed up with Kamala Harris, but
she never proved it. Well, and every time somebody tried to challenge it, they got spoke for. She never ever proved it.
Yeah. And so what I'm looking at with that is also people that they want to operate in the black community. They want to get black people riled up, but they don't really mess with black people. Like I said, with Jasmine Crockett don't operate like that. Jasmine Crockett ain't from a, you know, Jasmine Crockett is from like a privileged life. Jasmine Crockett went to a really nice school. She's had a lot of things gifted to her, either because of who she is, or not because who she is, but well, I think because she's a black woman. I think that's may have had some help with that, though. But when it comes to like the people that they use it as a weapon, I think that's probably where the black fatigue is coming from as well, too.
Yeah, using blackness as a weapon to justify something stupid. Here's the hardcore truth, right? Make a list of everybody who has oppressed you, disrespected you, taken money from you, taking advantage of you. I did that once upon a time. And you know what I discovered? Most of the people who are oppressing me look just like me.
Yeah.
I had a few instances where there was somebody who was white or Asian or whatever trying to do some shady stuff to me. But generally speaking, most of the people who oppressed me or tried to hold me back looked exactly like me. And that's kind of, and one of the points that was missing from that article I just posted is trauma bonding. That's a part of our culture too. You got a whole bunch of people sitting around, and the person who had the toughest life is usually the person that gets the most respect, right? Or the person who went to jail commands more respect. And it's like, what are we celebrating? Just a couple of weeks ago, we did that video with the lady who was black, but she looked like she was white, and she was dancing provocatively. And all these black women were getting mad about that. Yeah, and I'm like, y'all really trying to sit here and fight for this? This is what you identify as blackness? I'll give you a more recent example. Did you see the video of all the black women that went into the Lululemon store and started twerking, and that was their way of protesting Lululemon?
Yeah, I saw that too. There's actually, did you see the graduation one?
I didn't see the graduation one.
Oh, let me see if I can find it here.
But ultimately, the point I'm proving is we celebrate the wrong things, and the people who speak the loudest in our communities are the ones who need to shut up. And that's including people like Kamala Harris, Jasmine Crockett, Cory Booker. I'm iffy on him. But we need to get back to the point where we can take care of ourselves, conduct ourselves with decency, morality, and virtue, and self-accountability. That's the biggest one. Because right now there's a large section of us that feel like they're above accountability. And that is fatiguing as hell.
Yeah. Tell me your thoughts on this real quick. I can't play the music because, you know, this is a graduation.
This is a graduation, huh?
Yeah.
I mean, they turned up. I don't have a problem with celebrations. I probably wouldn't do it this extreme, because half of them probably got a degree that they're going to be complaining about in 5 to 6 years. Then they can't find a job, and then they're going to be doing something else.
There's a lot of women, though. We'll say that.
Yeah, there's a lot of women turning up. I'm assuming this is an HBCU, and they do celebrations differently. I'm not going to knock celebrating a success. I'm never going to knock that. Now, if they were celebrating something goofy, like a Popeye's chicken sandwich or something like that, then I'd have a problem with that. But I'm not going to be as harsh on something like this.
Hey, I want to highlight this real quick, though. So that conversation, I think most white people didn't know Kamala Harris was black, regardless of, like, you know, whether in politics or not. I just think white people in general who are not connected. I mean, most black people didn't think Kamala Harris was black. And so I don't know if I would say fact checked him. I just think he didn't know. And Kamala Harris still hasn't, in my opinion, Kamala Harris just hasn't proved that she's from the black community, because when it came to, you know, when she first got into politics, she didn't start claiming black until she became Biden's running mate. So I know a lot of people feel some type of way about her being black, though. But at the end of the day, she didn't win the first time, or she didn't win. I mean, we all have the same number of primary wins as Kamala Harris does. And so part of the reason she did not win was because she couldn't connect to the Democrats are actually shady, but she really couldn't connect to the constituents. So that's the biggest issue there. So yeah, I get what you're saying, but I think most people in general did not know that she was claiming black until it was convenient, which is kind of the whole conversation we have about black fatigue, though, because she's not from she didn't start claiming it until it was like politically, desirable for her or advantageous for her is my opinion.
Black one convenient. Hey, let me ask you a question. Who has contributed more to the Black community, Kamala Harris or Rachel Dolezal?
I'm going to say Rachel only because I know she was involved with the NAACP, which, again, I knew something was off with Rachel when I first saw her picture. I don't understand how a lot of people did not know something was off with her. But I'll probably say Rachel because Kamala Harris was a prosecutor. She sent a lot of Black men to prison. So whether you want to believe that was just or not just, if you look through those records, she did. And she sent one guy in particular. I forget his name actually escapes me. But I wish they had focused on him a little bit more, though, because he had a story to tell where he was put behind bars unjustly.
Yeah. And Rachel Dolezal worked for the NAACP for years, was helping them with some of the efforts with scholarships and community awareness and such. It's an interesting question, but I know people would automatically default to Kamala because they think she's Black. But one thing about us that we do not get credit for, even to our own detriment, we're probably the most accepting community. If somebody says that they're Black, we'll just let them in. Nobody vets it, nobody checks it. Or if somebody says they have good intentions, we'll just let them in too.
I think it really depends on how they're trying to get into the community, though, because say like who's that dude? Talcum X.
Are you talking about Sean King?
Yeah, Sean King. I mean, they say he's Black, and I guess I suppose, but he's allowed to day walk in the community. And I'm still blown away because he says his dad is Black or something. So I think it just depends on like what you're saying in the community to get into the community, though, because that's the biggest issue. That's what a lot of people try to, say, well, you gotta, you're invited to the cookout. You can hang with in the Black community, and a lot of those people they don't really stand by what they're trying to push out there. They don't really act like they are. They just want to go against Trump or they want to go against conservatives. That's what they really care about. They don't care about Black people or the plight of Black people. How I know this is from the last 4 years under Biden, that was probably some of the worst years for Black people. People that were, and I'm going to say this, illegal immigrants, they actually received more resources. They received resources that were taken from Black community members, Chicago, New York, California. I didn't realize Atlanta had illegals down there or had as many illegals as I thought they would or think they would. So yeah, a lot of those resources went to those types of communities and not to the Black community. And it blows my mind that people want to fight that, though, because there's a movement that makes Chicago red, which, it's always good to have dreams. But they know that the mayor there, Brandon Johnson, has been ignoring his constituents. He's only been catering to the teachers union, to the Democratic governor, and also the illegals, which I think there's also something sinister happening there, which is why he needs to keep the illegals there or keep some of the resources there, because honestly, I think they were cooking the books. And so it's convenient to say you did all this stuff for the illegals because you can't prove it.
Yeah, man, we used to be a very innovative group of people, right? It was almost like we were stronger in olden times because we didn't have much of a choice. I mean, traffic lights, the fire extinguisher, improvement on the ironing boards, for the filament in light bulbs, so many things that we invented, blood transfusions. These are all things that were
definitely agree on that.
Invented / invented by Black folks. And it seems like we have this mental decline since then. Like there's less of a focus on the sciences and the maths and the STEM adjacent subjects. And it's more so this entertainment / sexualized space. So, we just talked about last week how the state of Oregon just lowered their reading, math, and science scores to be more inclusive to people of color. And I'm just banging my head on my desk. Like, why is that not more offensive to us? But we are definitely, there is a decline, and it can be very tiring at times.
Yeah. And actually, it was either Oregon or Washington, but I think they removed the bar exam for people that want to be attorneys. It's in one of those 2 states. And so I'm like,
that sounds like something both of those states would do, honestly, because they're very blue.
Yeah. And they said, and they always use the same excuse, we're doing it for Black people, women, and LGBT. Like, those are the 2 groups that if you want to build a pass, or if you want to do some scamming, you just insert those 3 groups and no one's going to bat an eye. Everybody's going to think it's okay. And then you're a racist for calling it out, though. But again, it's just weird that you want to lower the standards to allow a certain group of people in there. And which is also funny that a lot of when I see these Black people that go to these trials, they tend to have a white lawyer. Have you noticed that? Cassie had a white lawyer. Diddy has white lawyers. I want to say some of the folks in the Fannie Willis had white lawyers. Like, it's just weird to me how, a lot of these people tend to be pro-Black and they end up having white lawyer. Well, I guess Cassie's not really pro-Black no more, but they tend to have white lawyers in most cases, or whoish lawyer type of lawyer. But yeah, it's a weird thing. So anything else? We got one more topic. You got one more in you? Pause, MC?
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. We are going to go to the last. This one actually is a sad one. I wish we should have picked some more, pick some topics where it's a little bit happy, but it's just all I know. MC Marriage Bros is taking a big L today.
I guess we're doing this again.
I have to say that, though, because when it comes to like the whole marriage situation, though, especially with Cassie, because Cassie wasn't married to Diddy, even though some would say in common law she probably was, but she married a dude that's thinking he got a queen, and that's not your queen. That's like that's our queen. And then we got this firefighter dude. So this actually went viral maybe a week or 2 ago. And it's a very unfortunate situation. So if you're a fan of Heart, you're gonna have to give me a heads up or a trigger warning. So let me get this. Let's see. There we go. It takes a little bit to get to it, so let's go right here. His wife looks really good, though, respectfully.
She got the girls out.
Was beautiful.
Hey, it's a birthday party.
Pretty good for a finer, right? At that time, but
Everybody's having a good time.
Yeah, I fucking know everything. That's right, bitch. I know everything. I didn't see his skinny little pill thing. I wasn't in.
What?
Paul.
I know about all the plain B pills you had to take. You filthy fucking cunt. Fuck you. I fucking know, bitch. That's right. I fucking know everything. Don't act like you don't fucking know. I fucking hate you. I never hate anyone like that. I fucking hate you. I hate what you did to me, the betrayal. I hate what you did to my children.
Interference. She actually looked good too.
Bitch, don't make me fucking stronger, buddy. I know everything.
I don't know.
Everything.
Uncle Benny.
For the record, pause it real quick, TR. For the record, that lady who's intervening, had that been my wife, I'd have been like, no, leave that alone, babe. Stay out of that. Like, if she's with a guy, he let her go up there and he get in the middle of their stuff. I don't care if that's her sister. I don't care who that is to her. Nope, that's their business. Let them deal with it. Let them deal with it.
That's a very good point.
You want me to show them? I'll show them everything. You sure you want that? I don't think you fucking do.
Are we sure? What the fuck is that? Of course he's,
Fuck you. I don't give a fuck. Show them the life you fucking stole from them.
Now, me being the ignorant person I am, I'd have been like, show it. I would shout and yell that out for the crowd. Air her out. Put her on blast.
Oh, this is a funny one too. This is how that dude his wife was with Steve Smith. Yeah,
yeah, pretty much.
Hey, I will say this, bros that love to dabble in the snow, y'all taking L's too. Shannon Sharp, Steve Smith. So yeah, y'all taking smells too. But yeah, it's sad.
Told them everything. You sure you want that? I don't think you fucking do. You know who it is.
Fake, right?
Fuck you.
I thought it was for the first couple minutes.
And listen, whatever here still backs this piece of shit up for all that. Get the fuck out. This is my goddamn part. Play that.
All right, we got to hear all that. You know, I never saw the second part of this.
I didn't either.
Holy shit. He actually went off the deep end, which I can understand why he went off the deep end though. But he definitely went off the deep end, and you can't be telling everybody that you saw the dude that she was hooking up with. You saw as Johnson, and then you also kissed her. So there's some weird things going on there. But yeah, love is in the air, man. This is. I mean, I'm not against marriage. I'm not against marriage, but man, this is definitely something that can happen.
So, couple things. Number one, this is why no fault divorce needs to go away. Clearly, somebody's at fault here, and if he got the receipts to prove it, she got to get a clean break. You ain't getting no alimony. You ain't getting none of these assets. None of that.
MC, that's what I'm saying. No fault. I used to think about that with no fault divorce, but what a woman all has to do is like, okay, well, if you don't want to sign these papers, then I'm going to go and get, you know. He's a firefighter, so I'm assuming she got nailed by a police officer. That's generally what happens, or EMT. But they'll do some reckless stuff like that. I don't know. No fault divorce is the right option now because they'll cheat on you, or they'll start doing some reckless stuff to make you look like the fool. And you know, it's easy to put a case on you too.
Right, and a lot of states are starting to wake up and realize that no fault divorce is BS. I'm hoping that eventually becomes a thing in every state, but clearly she blew this marriage up. The only criticism I have of him is he probably shouldn't have handled it with as much emotion as he did. Yeah. If you're gonna air her out, you got to be calm about that, John. You got to be like, look, I know what you was doing. You're done. Get out of here. I'm about to turn the music on and party like he said. But this is the risk you take when you marry somebody. And it's even a bigger risk when you don't properly vet them. You're already dealing with the fact that, and let's be honest here, women get bored easier than men do. And they just do. We can sit and watch football all day at home, chilling with some good food, watch a good movie, jump on the PS5, whatever, and we're good. They're the ones that always constantly got to be multitasking and doing things. And you got to be mindful of that, right? That's number one. Number two, I don't know how well his vetting process was. I don't know.
Oh, this guy, I knew he was.
It always comes down to the vetting process. You gotta dig.
How do you
deep.
This?
How do you gotta dig deep. Talk to some exes. Ask her about the last guy she dated and while it ended.
Oh man.
See how many male friends she has. See what her relationships are like with her co-workers.
Hire a private eye is what he's saying. Hire a private eye.
I know people that actually do that. They'll ask, and these are men with money though. Don't get me wrong. I do have one friend that's a millionaire. He asks to see tax returns. He hires a private eye. He does background checks.
Jeez.
No lie. You have to. We've already established in earlier episodes that it's easier for them. Women have more sex than men. And what's the saying that CGA always says? Men are in love, women are in business.
Yeah.
So if you really want to take this leap, and why not do this? Because you know if it falls apart, the consequences for you are going to be severe. Depending on what state you're in. If you're in California, you definitely could. You might as well take every precaution you can.
All right. So, and just for the audience out there, I'm not married and MC is married. And again, I don't have a problem with when it comes to marriage conversations or being married. But now that I'm thinking about it, I think marriage is something that gets removed off the table after you reach a certain age. So I'm in my 40s. I think after you get to your 40s, I think marriage is just going to be off the table though, because the amount of vetting you're going to have to do to make sure that woman, and generally you're probably more successful, you have more assets in your life when you get to your age 40. But I just don't think it's going to be possible for you to vet enough to to voice something like this, especially you're a firefighter. Like again, I mean, and that's a nice looking chick though, at least in this grainy
She
ass
was.
video.
She
But
was.
I just don't know how you're gonna be able to vet. I don't know how you're gonna be able to try to avoid something like this though, because CJ actually has a thing called the marriage wheel, and it talks about like, one of the biggest flips in it is the I'm blanking on what it is, the actual name on it, but it's when they change it up on you. So after you get the kids, or it's after you get the career, they want to do something different now that's completely goes against your marriage though. So yeah, I don't know how it's going to be very difficult to vet for something like this. I almost think that if you
I guarantee you, TR, that lady in that video didn't even call him husband. She used to call him partner. Guarantee it. And there's, you got to consider stuff like that too. And think about this: when women complain about older men with money who date younger women, what they're not telling you is they do that because, typically speaking, the younger she is, the less baggage and BS she has tied to her. She's gonna have less bodies. She's gonna have less exposure to life, which generally means she's not going to be as corrupted. Now, what these older women should be asking, they won't, but they should be, or why are they going over here when all of these women in their age range are open and available? But they don't want to ask that question. You know why? Because they don't want to look in the mirror and find that answer.
Yeah, we just got another comment here. Getting closer to God doesn't help, or getting closer to God doesn't help. Not going to church necessarily, getting closer to God in faith and discipline, which I agree with that. I think if you can find
practice it,
if you practice it fully, but as you get older, I just don't think it's going to be something that's going to be viable though, because people in general, that even when you even like on dating apps, from what I've seen is that a lot of people saying they're atheists or they're not practicing, they're not 100%, they're spiritual is what they say. So you're already fighting against that. You almost have to I don't know what's going to be the best answer for a lot of men after they get to 35 though, because if you didn't find your wife when you were in your 20s or at college, you might be cooked out here though, because the way that society is moving, marriage is going to be something that's definitely for a small select group of people. And then you got to get past the 10-year mark as well too. Most marriages are not getting past the 10-year mark. Most of them are folding within year 7, year 8, and that's that's even with cheating, or they just want to do something different, or the husband is not around or absent. Like, I just don't understand like how they're gonna be able to do it and dealing with something like this. And the one thing that Brando had brought up was the Shannon Sharp. I mean, not Shannon Sharp. He did bring up Shannon Sharp, but the Ravens situation though. That woman was telling Steve to bust it down in her all over the place while she was going home to her husband and kids. I don't understand how some of these people. Honestly, I'm not advocating for this, but
warning, enemy nuke has been launched. Repeat, enemy nuke has been launched.
Something like that.
I'm glad both of y'all brought up Steve Smith, because we never did a follow up on that. That husband is suing him under the home record law, by the way. He does have residence in North Carolina, and that qualifies.
Yeah.
So he's gonna have to break bread.
Yeah, which I'm actually for that. I think all states should have some type of home record law, but I mean, it's a sad state of affairs when you do some stuff like that, though. But as far as hold
on, before you go, one more thing I gotta say, because I'm Christian and I can't believe I'm about to say this, but we got to deal with truth, right? Some of the biggest 304s go to church. Seriously. So going to church alone ain't enough. That's why we both said you got to be practicing this stuff. You got to be healing and evolving and getting better. Because 304s go to church too. They go to the club Saturday night and go to church Sunday morning.
I know. And you know what I think it is? I think if you can get them away from social media, I think that's the first step though. There was a woman that I was dating, and I can tell that she was talking about, or she was asking me questions, or making certain remarks when it came to our relationship. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And it's like, here, watch this video. And it's some dude pandering to women. I'm like, he doesn't believe that. That guy probably cheats on his girl. They just say that stuff because that gets some clicks, that gets some views. And again, when you have to deal with stuff, when you have to deal with like social media, and then the church is for the most part supposed to be helping, but churches that I've been to, they don't have groups like that. They don't have what do you call it? So not solo groups, but singles, I guess. They're not. Church used to be where they can pair you with somebody else, but that's not happening. Yeah, that's not happening so much today. And I don't remember. I went to a lot of black churches growing up, though. I don't remember them having like a kind of a singles group. I just remember a lot of women being there, but not a lot of married women, unfortunately, and everything that goes along with that. But yeah, I would love for God be be more of a focus when it comes to these relationships, but people are not doing that, and it's just too much work trying to deprogram somebody. Like, I know we're going to disagree with this about, but you know how hard it is to tell people Kamala's not black. So I don't even talk to women about politics anymore, though, because it's like I don't care about your politics. Here to clap cheeks. I don't care about your politics because I've learned my lesson trying to have that conversation with people about when it comes to politics, and who do you vote for, or how do you feel about this? And it's like, you don't even care about any of this stuff. You just want to be a certain way and to say, hey, this is why I'm against that person. A lot of times they don't even care about it. So you shouldn't even get close to even talking about politics in a marriage. But I don't see a pathway forward for a lot of men, especially like in your 30s. Like, what's your advice you would give for men? Say you're removed from college and you're in your 30s. What good advice you can give to them, because they're in a crossroads where some women are probably going to have kids. Some women are, they don't want it. They've made up their mind. They're not having kids. Like, what's a good thing there? Because 40 is right around the corner, and that's when they hit their peak when it comes to earning potential.
So let me say this real quick, and it's going to answer your question when I conclude. There was this back in middle school. There was this chick I was pressing hard on her, like I wanted her in the worst way, right? She clowned me.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, cool. You know what I'm saying? I took it harshly back then, but over time, what I've learned is, and this is what I would tell people: chase your purpose, stand on your masculinity, build up your bread. If you do those three things, I started to do that a little bit later than I would like to admit, but nonetheless, I'm working on it. They gonna circle back. And remember, we had that conversation too on the chick that played you back in the day. Then she went out to the streets, and then she tried to come and find you later and say, you need to forgive all that stuff I did. That's going to happen to you. And I'm telling you, just chase your purpose. Taking it back to this video we just watched, this dude, and pause before I say all this. He was relatively in shape. He was young. He's a firefighter, right? You got leverage, bro. If you are the type of dude that you say you are, you can replace her way easier than she can replace you.
That is a fact. That is a fact. Yeah.
Seriously, like, it took me a long time to have the confidence that I have, but look, I'm 6'3". I'm an eye-looking dude. I make really good salary, like to the point where I can take care of my wife and my daughter. They ain't got to worry about nothing. I know I'm a catch. I know I'm a prize. And dudes got to start thinking like that. We got the game all messed up when we go out and we chase these women. She should be sending choosing signals to you. Stop cold approaching women. Only go after the women who are giving you eye contact to give you some type of choosing signal. She's got to let it be known that she wants to be chose. We got the game all wrong.
Yeah. I think with this guy, though, I think one of the biggest missteps that he had was also just doing this all over social media. I mean, he didn't post the video. Other people posted the video, but it's going to be out there. Luckily that his face hasn't really been, like, a close-up of his face hasn't really been attached. So most people are probably not going to, recognize him walking down the street, though. But if it does go to court, they're going to play this video. So men have to start doing a better job of, when you do catch your wife, stepping out on you, there's a right way and a wrong way to handle these things. And so you do have a little bit more leverage when it comes to if you had kept this to yourself. But when you have these emotional outbursts, that's that's going to be used against you, and the courts are still against when it comes to men. She could just say like, I don't feel safe in the house, or let's say something happens after watching this video. Most people are going to believe that he did something. Maybe he didn't do anything. I mean, he obviously didn't do anything, but if she said he did something, you could probably believe from watching this video that maybe something did happen though. So, you kind of have to like you definitely got to be mindful and be on your purpose, and then operating in abundance though, because maybe he found out an hour before or whatever the case is though. But if you're all those items, you got to be able to like say like, hey, I'll just get another one. Like, you got to restart your family or whatever the case is. And I think that's the other thing too. Like, men have to like stop seeing some of these marriages, or if your marriage dissolves or whatever the case is, get a divorce. Yeah, it sucks, but I mean, at least you're on something a little bit better though. At least you'll be, you have a better mindset though, because you cannot be in a marriage where somebody's a anchor in your marriage. So
Yeah. And I gotta find the article, but I believe it was Psychology Today. They did an article that said basically when a man and a woman break up, the man takes it the hardest in the beginning, but as he rebounds his life back together, he almost always does better in the end.
yeah.
That's typically how it goes. But again, man, this is a cold game out here. A lot of these women want to put themselves ahead of the marriage itself. And
Program.
if you single, you got to deal with that type of stuff. And I feel for you in that regard.
Yeah. And then one more thing before we close this out. So you're absolutely right. I think your discernment is better. Thanks, Brando. I do believe that your discernment is better in your 40s than in your 20s. The problem is that Cassie, I think Cassie is probably the best example here, though, because she did all that freaky stuff, drank on all the drink, did all the, the coca, the booger stuff. She did all that stuff, and then you fast forward, she gets married. She's on her, I think that's her second or her third kid. And then you standing there thinking that you found your prize. I just don't know how. Well, again, if he knew about it, really shame on him. But if he finds out now, he got some decisions to make, though. So I think you're right. Your discernment is better in your 40s, though. But these women flip on you. You find out new things with them, about them, what they did, what they used to do, what they have done in the past. A little bit later, you don't find out till later in the marriage. And so it's difficult to figure out who they are. Yeah, I know celebrities. I know celebrities don't count, but the problem is that a lot of times they set the culture too.
They really don't. No, he's right, man. Celebrities are weirdos, man. We can't use celebrities.
Yeah, we can though, because we got Shannon Sharp, who getting dragged through the mud mainly because he was with a 19-year-old, and we're telling Shannon Sharp he should be dating someone like Tracy Ellis Ross. And Tracy Ellis is probably like the, if you had to date an older person, a grandma, I guess it would be her. But not that many women look like Tracy Ellis Ross at that age. Tracy Ellis Ross at that age. So maybe somebody a little bit, maybe 10 years younger or something. But I'm at that point where I'm not telling men what to do, though, because the deck is already stacked against them. And again, with these celebrities. So real quick, I know we said we're going to close. With celebrities, when it comes to these criminal convictions, that's a trickle-down effect, though. So people may think that they don't really, they don't count. But when it comes to like some of these crimes, they do it at the big level. So if it works at the big level, it's definitely going to work at the small level too. So again, with that whole trafficking stuff, that started with Jeffrey Epstein. Now they're throwing trafficking charges on all these pimps. So you do anything about moving some box over the state lines, you're a trafficker automatically.
I mean, if you want to be real about it, you can take it all the way back to Hugh Hefner. But they ain't ready for that conversation yet.
Well, they tried to get him before he died. So
yeah.
Man. Well, all right. We are going to wrap this one up. Final words, MC?
Yep. I just want to say somebody who listens to our show and knows me personally sent me a very long message about something I said last week. And I got 2 messages for that person. Number 1, F you. And number 2, I have never, ever in my life said that racism does not exist. It does exist. The problem is you ninjas use it so much for every freaking thing that is very disrespectful, and it weakens the arguments of people that are really going through it. That was all I was trying to say. I know you're watching right now. You were somewhat respectable in the message, so I'm not going to air out your name, but I'm just telling you how my mind works. So I'm going to need you to get on my level or find another show to watch.
Oh man, this guy. Well, no one's mad at me, so not yet, at least.
Not yet. It'll happen.
All right. Have a good night, everybody.
Peace.